Hey guys, what's up? It's Deprimido. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here in FL Studio and I'm going to be breaking down beats off of the new King Von album. I know I just did a King Von video a couple weeks ago, but I like King Von a lot, so we're doing it again. So the new album, What It Means to Be King, came out last Friday, and personally I think it's a really good album. Let me know what you guys thought, but I definitely liked it. There's also definitely a big change in the kind of beats that he was using. Might not be super noticeable to everybody, but especially in the melodies, there's definitely a lot of differences. So I'm going to break that down for you guys, but first make sure you go over and follow me on Instagram. When I reach 2,000 followers, I'm dropping a free MIDI kit. Also, I just dropped a free loop kit that you can get. It's got a lot of King Von loops, also some like Lil Durk, Lil Baby type of stuff. So definitely go check that out. It's free. I'll put the video for that up in the card in the corner. But yeah, let's start off with breaking down this melody. So in a lot of King Von's older music, a lot of the melodies are piano based, and then they've got like some strings and synths and stuff in the background. That's definitely still there on this album, but there's also a lot more songs on this album that are just strictly more synth based, and that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about because I talked more about his like piano and synth and type of stuff in the last video that I did about him. So in this album, you're going to hear a lot of like synth bells, strings, pads, leads, stuff like that for the main melody. And obviously, like I said, there is also that piano type of thing that I talked about, but that's not the main focus of this video. You're mostly just going to want to make like a kind of a dark, hard melody. There's also some songs on the album that are a lot more sad. So for me, I just started out with this little synth pluck right here. Pretty repetitive pattern, as you can see. We just change up the root notes a little bit, but not too much going on. Sounds like this. Then I just grabbed this pad and I just laid out a really simple pattern right here. As you can see, it's basically just playing this note and then it's jumping up an octave. And then I also layered this section down an octave to just make it a little bit more substantial. So altogether it sounds like this. Next up, I know I said we weren't doing a lot of piano type of stuff, but I did actually just layer that onto more orchestral instruments. So instead of the bell, I used a piano, and instead of the pad, I used a violin. I just wanted to do that to kind of switch up the sections and make it a little bit more interesting since this is a very repetitive melody. So the piano part sounds like this. And then with that violin added in, it is pretty much playing the exact same thing as the pad. The only thing I changed is instead of having this entire thing layered down an octave, I just added the root notes for the whole 2 bars. So this is what it sounds like. Then kind of going back into the more synth section, I did also add this lead. You're going to hear a lot of synth leads in these beats, even the ones that are kind of more his old style with the pianos and more orchestral instruments, you're still going to hear a lot of synth leads in those. After all, this style does come from Chicago drill, so you're definitely going to hear a lot of synths. So this is what it sounds like with the lead. Obviously really simple stuff, and that's pretty much it for the melody, nothing too complicated. Before we jump into the drums, make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you are enjoying this video, I really appreciate it. But next, jumping into these drums, let's start off with the hi-hat pattern. Nothing too crazy for these hi-hat patterns. I just started off with a 2-step and then we added in some extra notes and rolls and stuff here and there, and that's pretty much how most of these patterns go for these songs. This is what it sounds like. Next, I just added in a clap. It's also pretty common to hear this layered with like a trap snare, or you can do just a snare and that's going to be usually like a sharper sound like the chop snare. Next, let's talk about this 808. You're mostly going to want to use short to medium 808s for these beats, and you don't want to have too much distortion, maybe a little bit, but not a ton. For your 808 pattern, you don't want to go too crazy, but you do want to make it a little bit more bouncy than you would in most songs. You're also mostly going to want to place your 808 notes on the beat, so you're probably not going to hear a ton of stuff where it's hitting like on the end of a beat or whatever. The exception to that is things like this where we're doing a little octave jump right here, but obviously the main note is right here. This is just kind of an accent. So here's what our pattern sounds like. You also might notice that you're usually going to hear your 808s hitting pretty often on the clap. That's something that's pretty common in these beats. Next, I pretty much just layered that with a kick. After that, I just added in this rim. In these beats, you're generally not going to hear a ton of rims that sound like this type of thing. You're more so going to hear rims that sound like this. And again, with your rim patterns, same with the 808, you don't want to do anything too crazy, but you definitely want to make it a little bit more bouncy than usual. You don't really want to just have this type of pattern. So this is what I laid out. And finally, I just added in this little tambourine. I just thought it sounded good. Sounds like this. And that's pretty much all that I added to the beat. Next, I just mixed it down. Then we've got some chorus on the pad. I just wanted to make it a little bit bigger sounding and a little bit more substantial. Then we've got an EQ on the strings, just cutting out a lot of the lows. And then on that synth lead, we've got an EQ cutting out a lot of the highs and the lows. And then we've also just got a little bit of reverb. And those are the only effects that I used. After that, I just leveled it. If you guys want a more in-depth tutorial on how I mix my beats, I'll leave the video that I did on that up in the card in the corner. And after that, I just arranged it. There's nothing too crazy to talk about. I just used the synth section for the hook and then the more orchestral type of section for the verse. I cut the melody out 1 bar before the drop just to kind of help it drop in harder. And then we've also just got a riser hitting each time before the hook drops. And then we just faded it out at the end. So overall, nothing too crazy. I'm going to play the beat at the end of the video, but first I'd like to thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you consider supporting me on Patreon. It's only a couple bucks a month and it really helps me out. I'm also going to be dropping some really cool stuff over there. I organize all of the notes that I make for these videos in this one big spreadsheet. It's pretty much got all the characteristics for all these types of beats, and it's got some artists that I haven't covered yet as well. We're also going to be doing some exclusive videos over there, stuff like that, and you also get to vote on the artists that I do for these videos, so definitely check that out. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.